Licensing Committee. Item number 1. Are there any apologies for absence and substitutions, please?
Yes, Chair. We've received apologies for absence from Councillor Paling.
Thank you. I understand that Councillor Rachel Ellis is going to be late, so we'll just carry on. She won't be able to vote on the first item if she's not here for the beginning of that. Okay, moving on to item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes having been circulated of the meeting held on 3rd December. May I have a proposer, please? Councillor Wilkinson, and a seconder. Councillor Roxanne Ellis. Those 4. Any abstentions? Just the 1. Thank you. Item 3. Are there any declarations of interest? There are not. Moving on then to item 4. I'm going to do this in a slightly different way to usual. So I'm going to introduce the item, then the officer will have the report, then we'll move to open the debate, second that, debate, anyone else who wants to speak, then move the item to vote. So first of all, I'd like to introduce the report for a borough-wide smoke control area declaration, the purpose of which is to advise members of the outcome of the consultation on the proposals to review the smoke control order areas within the borough and introduce a borough-wide smoke control area, and to consider the revocation of all existing smoke control orders. We'll move on for Mr. Neelan, Community Protection Officer, who's going to present the report.
Thank you very much, Chair. So members may be aware that currently the regulatory regime to deal with smoke from a chimney in a building is carried out in 2 ways depending on the location. The first is through use of the Environmental Protection Act 1990 and the Antisocial Behaviour and Crime and Disorder Act 2014, which allows officers to deal with complaints about smoke from a chimney where it's located outside of a smoke control area. The second is when officers receive complaints about smoke from a chimney which is located inside a smoke control area. And in these cases, the approach is taken by officers is through the civil use of the Clean Air Act powers, which is a civil penalty and is seen as the most appropriate method. The Council currently has 40 smoke control areas across the borough, and a map presented at Appendix 4 shows the locations. The Environment Act 2021 places a duty on government to bring forward the new air quality targets for particulate matter, and there is an expectation from DEFRA that local authorities will review their current smoke control arrangements. Now that the current arrangements have been reviewed and a number of proposals have been identified, and a report has been produced. The report is in 2 parts. The first part is to present the findings of the public consultation and to seek members' approval to proceed with making a borough-wide smoke control order. Should members agree to make a borough-wide smoke control order, the second part relates to the revocation process of the existing smoke control areas, which would allow officers to begin work to revoke the existing smoke control orders. As members will be aware, Gedling Borough Council has taken its responsibility to monitor and improve air quality very seriously, and this was demonstrated most recently by the revocation of the air quality management area in Daybrook. The revocation of historic smoke control areas, which were introduced to combat issues around coal burning in the 1960s and 1970s, and being replaced by a single borough-wide smoke control area, is seen as a positive step forward. Enforcement, as with most cases in environmental health, will largely be complaint-led, with each case being judged on its merits, taking into consideration the location and the effect that any smoke is having on neighbouring residents. So, through you, Chair, I'm happy to assist with discussion or take any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move that we open the debate. May I have a proposer, please? Councillor Wilkinson and a seconder. Councillor Towsey Hinton. Thank you. And please raise your hand if you'd like to make any comment on this item. Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. There are 7 villages that are listed which this will affect primarily. 3 of them are represented by Councillor Pickering and I. 2 of them from Councillor Elliott represent at county level, and I've spoken to the ward members of Burton Joyce, who represent Burton Joyce and Stoke Bardolph. Initially, I did have some concerns about this, but had a really useful conversation with Mr. Neelan that's provided a lot more background to actually what's written in these lengthy papers, and I fully understand now why there is a need to bring this in. I do have concerns, still have a few concerns about those residents who live in very isolated areas, who've got a ready supply of wood in their back garden, who will be doing possibly what might be described as the green thing by using fuel that's on the doorstep. And I think probably all of us agree that it's really important that as a country we are self-sufficient for our energy needs. But I am reassured that even those with smoke, with open fires, there are alternatives for them to use. I've spoken to one of the local suppliers of smokeless fuels, New Farm Fuels in Ravenshead on Main Road. He's actually delighted that this is going to be brought in, because I think it will stop what he classes some of the rogue operators selling wet wood to people, probably the tree surgeons, without giving them a bad name, because they do a great job in their surgeon role, but I'm not so sure about the wood that they're selling on. So certainly, really pleased that this is coming in. I'm sure it will be far easier for officers to manage, having a borough-wide ban. I did have one other reservation, and it's not the main topic of conversation, but we are looking as a county to possibly go to a unitary authority. A little bit concerned that we're doing this in isolation to some of the other local authorities. And if I was, whilst I don't wear a county hat, I may be, if I were to, I'd be concerned that this is a bit of a piecemeal approach. I know that Rushcliffe have sort of rejected this, Newark and Sherwood aren't considering it at the moment. Should we delay this until possibly a unitary authority looks at it as a whole, or on the alternative is that is that actually as soon as it comes in, it starts protecting people's health, and possibly that's the most overriding, most important factor in this. So I certainly support this.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Regarding the isolation matter, Kevin Neelanson will have a reply for you now.
Thank you for your support on that, Councillor Smith. It's appreciated. The order is for Gedling to make, and we are aware that different local authorities have taken a different approach across the county level, across the county area. The scenario that you painted there is something that officers have borne in mind when they've been working on the enforcement policy. And in actual fact, we welcome some member involvement in drafting the enforcement policy and to work through some of the scenarios so that both members and officers are clear about the action we're going to take for enforcement moving forward. Member involvement in working on policy and procedures is something that we've done in the past, and this is an area where I would probably recommend that we do it as well, because we understand that it is a broad landscape out there for different properties in different locations. With regard to the working in partnership with other local authorities across the county, there is going to be some communication work that's going to go out, and myself and colleagues in the service have welcomed offers from across the 7 districts to make sure that that's consistent. And I think we're going to be looking through consistency through the Nottinghamshire Working Pollution Group, so that officers in different local authorities are taking an enforcement approach which is consistent as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this report. I think it makes perfect sense that we now have a borough, or we will have a borough-wide scheme rather than the piecemeal schemes that we've had up until now. I welcome support offered by Councillor Smith. In respect of his final point, with regard to the possible fragmentation and moving towards a unitary authority, I think that's a valid concern to have. However, we can only do what we can do in this borough. We can't predict what for certain what's going to happen in the future, and I'd rather see us levelling up rather than levelling down to the lowest common denominator. So I think it's for us to encourage the other authorities, as they exist at present, to come with us rather than be cautious about it. And I think you made the point perfectly well, Councillor Smith, that our primary concern should be about the health of our residents, and that's and for that reason I will be supporting this today.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Does anybody else like to speak? No? In that case, then, I will move the item to a vote. I will propose that all 6 recommendations en bloc. I don't think it's necessary to read them all. They're long. Councillor Ellis, sorry.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for my late arrival. I have read the document, but I haven't been here for the entire discussion. I will take your advice on
Thank
that
you.
one.
I did say at the beginning that if you weren't here at the start of the item, that you wouldn't be voting. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for getting here. Okay, so may I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Elliott. Those 4? That's unanimous. Thank you, members. Moving on then to item 5, which will take the same format. Oh, sorry, yeah, we need a change of personnel here. I did fail to say, much to my shame, that this was an extensive piece of work, and I'd like to give thanks from the committee to all the officers involved. Thank you. Moving on then to item number 5, which is the report to this committee regarding the Department of Transport's statutory taxi and private hire vehicle standards. Mr. Neelan is going to present this report, but I would like to just, I've introduced it and that's fine. So if you'd like to present the report, please, Mr. Neelan.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware that taxi licensing is mainly governed by 2 pieces of legislation, which is the Town Police Clauses Act of 1847 and the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1976. Over the years, many court cases have been decided on the interpretation of these pieces of legislation. The government produces guidance periodically regarding taxi licensing, and in 2020 it published a document entitled the Statutory Taxi and Private Hire Vehicle Standards, which made several recommendations relating to policies and conditions for taxi licensing that are produced by local authorities across the country. The committee considered the standards document in 2020 and resolved to set up a working group of members and officers to discuss the document and its recommendations, as well as to produce a set of questions to be included in a consultation document. The working group met in 2020 and 2021, and a report was sent to committee in March 2021 to approve the consultation. The consultation was carried out in 2021, and over a period of time, officers considered the responses and worked with members on finalising the recommendations in the report. In addition, one of the recommendations was that all the policies relating to taxi licensing be published by local authorities in one document, which has now been produced and is attached with the report. This has been a large and complex piece of work, and as time has passed since the consultation was carried out in 2021, and as such it is recommended that the policy document including the changes recommended by the working group be subject to another 4-week consultation to ensure that the trade and the public have an opportunity to comment before the amended policy document is introduced. If officers are happy to assist in any questions through you, Chair, that members may have, and to take up any points relating to the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Nealon. And I move that we open the debate. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Roxanne Alice, thank you very much. And who would like to open? Nobody want to speak on this? Councillor Scroggy, please.
Yeah, obviously we've had an email from one of the drivers. I'm sure all the councillors have probably seen that email. And there were some points in that email that I thought were quite valid. And I'm assuming, have you seen the email, Kevin?
Yes, I have seen the email as well.
I'm just wondering whether officers have given any thought into sort of clarifying some stuff that the driver brought up about the damage to the car and drinking water. Didn't ask permission. I don't think that's unreasonable for a driver just to have a drink of water while driving and not need to ask permission. Maybe for eating, yes, but on a hot summer's day, if you've got a stroppy customer and you ask the customer to have a drink and they say no, you kind of sort of stuck a little bit there. I just think I'm sure whenever you look at any complaints, you would take that into consideration and bear that in mind, I suppose.
Thank you.
I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you, Councillor Scroggy. Mr Nealon's got a prepared
So
answer.
thank you very much for that, Councillor Scroggy. So this agenda item is dealing with the recommendations made by the statutory taxi and private hire vehicle standards and the recommended changes that flow from them which need to be made. And sorry. I've got a cold as well, which isn't helping things. Any other changes of conditions should be put to the council through the licensing officers to consider with reasons as to why the current position should change, and officers are happy to look at them in the next review and make any recommendations to the committee. This piece of work is concentrated on the statutory standards and the changes required following them. There will be future work regarding the vehicle specification and any other further best practice to see what, if any, of other further changes need to be made. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Nealon. Does anybody else want to comment? Councillor Towsey Hinton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Along with what my colleague Alex has just said, it's not unreasonable, really, to try and restrict a driver from having a drink, especially in hot weather, working in a vehicle. It can get very hot throughout the warm weather. So could we put in words to the effect of non-alcoholic...
I need to interrupt you here.
Sorry.
That part of that we're talking about now isn't in relation to what we're dealing with today. And I thought that Kevin Nealon had just answered that. That's not before us today. Okay,
Yeah,
it is
okay.
in the pipeline, but not today.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody further? No? Lovely. Then,
Councillor Wilkinson.
I beg your pardon, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. I think once again we've got a comprehensive piece of work from the officers, so thank you for that. Seems to be a lot of very sensible tidying up of the current policy, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. I'd echo that, and I did refer to this piece of work earlier as a huge piece of work. I think humongous is probably a better description. It's been long-standing, and it's moved. I'm really glad that all 5 pieces of the policy are in one document now, and that you haven't got to go hunting around for various bits. So now is the time for this. So may I move the recommendation, please? And may I have a seconder? Councillor Boyd-Elliott, thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. Thank you. We are adjourned. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, I nearly missed. Item 6, are there any other items I consider urgent? There are not. So I declare this meeting